Have you ever been in a really high-stress situation that just never seemed to end? You know, a time when the pressure stopped being a series of bad days and instead just became the air you breathe? Well, today, we're going to dive into what that's all about, the architecture of survival, and how destructive pressure can quietly and kind of sneakily become our new normal. So, let's just jump right in with this question because it's the whole point. At what point do we stop hearing the alarm bells? When does that constant hum of stress and anxiety and just everything, when does it just blend into the background? It's that exact moment, that shift from a loud alarm to just background noise, that we're going to break down. You know, here's a really fascinating idea from the source material. Pressure isn't actually destructive the moment it shows up. Nope. It becomes truly damaging when we stop interpreting it, when we stop asking, hey, is this okay? This is the moment when our survival instincts totally take the wheel and our own judgment gets kicked into the back seat. And that brings us to this core concept, normalized pressure. Basically, it's not about one single crisis. It's about a long-term state where stuff that should be shocking just isn't anymore. It's expected. And you know, the most dangerous part? It's the kind of change you usually only see in the rearview mirror, long after it's happened. So, faced with all this, how do people cope? Well, they start building armor. Let's take a look at how this actually happens, starting with the outside, the visible strategies a person starts using just to make it through the day. The very first line of defense is often just silence. And what's so interesting here is how we frame that choice. This isn't about giving up, it's not submission, it's actually a strategic move. Think about it. Speaking up takes a ton of energy, and it invites risk. Being silent conserves your resources, and frankly, it keeps you off the radar. It is a calculated survival tactic. But, and this is a big but, here's the trap. As this quote just brilliantly puts it, that strategic silence gets misread. The system, the people around you, maybe even you yourself, you start to think that no complaints means no problems. What started as a temporary coping skill hardens into a habit, and that habit just reinforces the whole toxic environment. And this right here visualizes that huge internal conflict perfectly. Inside, you're seeing everything. You see the inconsistencies, the unfairness, all of it. But on the outside, your behavior is the total opposite. Silence, neutrality, just going along with things. This gap, it creates this constant low-level buzz of tension that just grinds you down over time. So this widening gap leads to another coping mechanism. You just start absorbing public humiliation. When getting corrected stops being about helping you and starts being a public show of power, you learn a really hard lesson fast. Do not react. You start practicing what the source calls emotional compression. You put on a poker face, and people see this and they say, wow, you're so resilient. But it's not resilience, it's accumulation. Every single one of those moments is another layer of stress getting packed down inside you. Okay, so we've seen how a person reacts, but what about the system itself? Well, a lot of the time, this pressure comes in the form of control, specifically through the absolutely soul-crushing tool of micromanagement. And this is exactly what that looks like. I mean, notice how none of this is actually about getting better results. It's all about watching the process, about being able to trace every single step. The real goal here isn't to make sure you're competent. It's to make sure everything is documented and under control. And the message that sends, whether it's on purpose or not, is just profound distrust. And right here, this is the key. This quote just absolutely nails it. The whole point of this kind of control isn't to push you to be great. It's to push you to be predictable, to fit the mold, to conform. See, excellence can be messy and risky. Conformity is safe. It's traceable. Okay, and this is where the damage gets so much deeper. All of these external things, the silence, the control, they start to trigger a fundamental rewiring of your inner world. Your actual brain starts to adapt in ways that are meant to protect you, but are also deeply, deeply damaging. Fear stops being this sharp, acute feeling, and it just becomes chronic. Look at this progression. First, you're constantly bracing for criticism. Then, your whole nervous system recalibrates. You're just always on high alert, to the point where feeling calm starts to feel weird, almost unsafe. And finally, fear isn't even an emotion anymore. It's just your default operating system. It's just how you move through the world. And what's the biggest casualty in this whole mental war zone? The ability to reflect. Just thinking deeply about your situation becomes dangerous. And why is that? Because to reflect is to question, and to question is to challenge the system, which puts you at risk. So the mind just shuts it down. This is such a powerful way to put it. You're not getting dumber. You're not losing your intelligence. Your mind is actively and defensively shrinking its own space to protect you. It's a defensive contraction. It's pulling back from the dangerous world of thinking and just sticking to the safety of doing what needs to be done right now. And that brings us to the final stage. After all this adapting, what's the real cost? I mean, what actually happens when just making it through the day becomes the ultimate goal? Let's be really clear here. At this point, the old ways of measuring success are completely out the window. Things like the quality of your work, your creativity, any kind of personal growth, they're not even on the table anymore. The new metric for success is just this one word: endurance. Did you get through the day? Did you survive the week without some major blow-up? If so, that's it. That's the win. And this just perfectly illustrates the new goalpost. Success is no longer defined by achieving something good. It's defined by avoiding something bad. The simple absence of harm becomes the absolute best thing you can hope for. And here we are. This might be the single most important insight in this entire breakdown. The reason this whole destructive process is so hard to see while you're in it is because from the inside, it doesn't feel like you're falling apart. It feels like you're getting stronger. It feels like you are successfully adapting to your environment. Which leaves us all with this final, really critical question to think about. We learn to endure, right? We learn to survive. But in rewiring ourselves to fit into a broken system, what essential parts of ourselves do we end up losing in that process? What is the true, honest cost of that adaptation?